Join us for a very special conversation with John Irizarry and his new album, This Girl. Stay with us. Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. So glad you're with us for this very special episode. We don't do too many interviews, so when we do, it's something special. And this is a very special episode that we hope you're going to stay with us for. Before we get started, I do want to let everybody know, give everybody a little bit of a trigger warning that we will be talking about suicide in this episode. So if that's something that you're not comfortable with, it's okay to pull away from this episode and come visit us on another one, which is perfectly fine. Also, if you are dealing with any struggles or know anybody that is, the National Suicide Hotline number is, you could dial 988 or go to 988lifeline.org. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for both of those. This way that information is available for you or someone you love that may need a little help. By all means, not a problem to put it there, so use it. And May, we're recording this in May, John's album, John Irizarry, welcome, first of all.
Thank you, Dean.
Before I go too long.
Thank you for having me on.
As I've been known to do. John's new album, This Girl, was just released May 3rd, 2024, which is May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't think that was coincidental, John.
Well, I don't think it was on top of our list of things to do. It worked out this way. I'm glad it was. There's 2 months. There's this month that is mental health awareness, and then in the fall there's a suicide prevention month. So I wasn't aware that this was the month that was chosen for this, but I'm happy that this is the month it came out. It's perfect timing, really.
Yeah, and we're going to spend some time talking about John, his album, but more importantly, the story and the events that led up to him creating this piece of music, which I've been listening to it almost nonstop since it came out, and I highly urge everybody. It is available on Spotify, and normally in all of our episodes, we point people to go check it out on Spotify, which is great. In this case, we want everybody, if you're interested in this album, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to John's Bandcamp site, where you can purchase, you can stream it, you can purchase a CD, you can purchase a vinyl, which I did. So I'm waiting for that vinyl.
Yes.
Because a portion of those proceeds are going to go towards suicide prevention and those types of causes. So really, if you want to help out, if anything in this episode is really resonating with you, sure, listen to it on Spotify. But if you really want to go that extra mile and help out, go visit John's Bandcamp site, where you can purchase the single. Anything will help. Bumper stickers he's got there too. Any little bit. Many hands makes light work. It's a corny saying, but it is true. And if we get as many people as possible involved, we can make a difference and start to move things. So, first of all, John, congratulations on the release of the album.
Thank you very much.
It's really great.
But,
from a listening standpoint, we're gonna get into it. But I really, it's an album and that makes you think about things. It kind of really draws you in. And this came out of an unfortunate tragedy with your daughter Lauren. So I'm gonna hand it over to you now to kind of to introduce our listeners to Lauren.
Well, in 2020, I'll start this. And when I was 12 years old, my 29-year-old brother, Joey, took his life. And then in 2020, for a moment to skip ahead, 2020, my older daughter, Lauren, took her life during the year of COVID, isolation, and too much quiet did that, I believe. Put her on a bad path, and in July of that year, she took her life. So for 6 months afterwards, after Lauren passed, I did a lot of smoking and drinking for 6 months after that. And I realized at 6 months, post her passing that I wasn't processing the way I should. Um, so I stopped cold turkey. And the reason why I knew I wasn't processing anything was because I wasn't writing anything. And I write all the time. And within 2 weeks, I had most of the songs for the album came out within 2 weeks of stopping cold turkey. They were all there waiting. Um, and there's a song on there, The Way You Feel About Her, that's on the album, that was originally on another album I did back in 2010 with the band Small Town Sheiks. And that song was about Lauren. So it was not lost on me that the feeling I had for the lyrics that I wrote then, and as songs will do as different experiences happen for you, change the meaning of songs for you. So the the song fit for the album now, but the meaning has changed for
Mhm.
me. So that was something that was different. But yeah, but the majority of the songs were written then in that 2 week period, and thankfully, I was trying to work it out in my little studio in my home, and it was very hard. It was very hard, obviously, very heavy, and I felt like cinder blocks walking to my studio to do that. And Joe Leone, who's the son of beautiful people that I grew up with, uh, Donna and Dan Leone. Joe Leone grew up a music head and he's now has his own studio, Perisphere Studio, and he is a producer. And I was talking to him because we've been kindred spirits since he's a little kid, and because we're both music junkies, you know. And he said, "Johnny, I got you," and he helped a friend, and I'm grateful for that, along
Yeah.
with Randy Sutter, who we'll
Yeah,
talk about, I'm sure.
you've got Randy Sutter on this album playing bass. Joe Leone is playing almost everything, playing
Yeah,
almost everything else.
he's one of
Sandy
those guys.
Bookie on drums,
Sure.
Brianna Mastandrea on trumpet,
Mhm.
and Lauren is actually on this album on 2 tracks.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about how that came to be?
Well, Lauren had done. I had recorded a song. She did a couple of backup vocals for me on a couple of songs that I've recorded and have out. But she did one song with me called that I wrote called "Who Decides," and she sang simple like "Oohs and Ahs" on one part. And I asked Joe. I said, well, "Can we use this because I have the isolated track? Can we
Mm.
use this somewhere on the album?" I think it'd be wonderful if she was with us, on here. And he was able to do it, and I'm very happy in those songs when I hear it and I hear a voice on there. And I hear a voice all the time, though. I
What
always
what
hear
what
it.
was that like for you hearing her voice while you were working in the studio, almost having her as a part of literally a part of the project?
Well, that's an interesting thing because when this and what I've learned is that I'm not alone in feeling this. Um, what happens because this is an unfathomable event to happen, not only to someone you love, but to happen to your child.
Mm,
That you go through phases of belief and disbelief, and you change scenarios, you'll rewrite scenarios about what ifs and could have beens. And there was a time early on, which I don't do anymore, but there was a time where if the phone rang, I thought would be her, and there was some kind of either joke or some game show or something if a
mm.
car was coming up into my neighborhood. So hearing her voice, I had to get it done. I had to get outside of the inside of this. So listening to her was beautiful for me, just as beautiful as when she first recorded it.
Mm.
And I could see her standing in my little studio singing her backup vocal for me and being so happy that she was on this recording, that we did this thing that's out there in the universe together.
Mm.
Um, and, so it was more of I was fortunate that it was more of a happy memory when I was doing that than it was um, something that was breaking me. I'm
Mhm.
already broken. So it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about there's two murals of Lauren. Am I correct that there's two
There's
murals
actually
of her?
three.
Three. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Where are these murals? One is in New Orleans, I believe, right?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
there's one in New Orleans, and it's a real big one on the side of the New Orleans Health Center. Um, and that one is also in the same building on the wall of Cafe Istanbul, which is the mural in Cafe Istanbul. Then the New Orleans Health Center is on Saint Roch and Saint Claude, and I would wish that anyone down there would stop and see it. It's a beautiful, beautiful mural. All the murals were done by the artist Nicole Salgar. She's a world famous muralist, and she was a childhood friend of Lauren's. So that one is really big. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. There's also a beautiful one in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Lauren was kind of an iconic figure
Mm.
on the Williamsburg, Bushwick, and Lower East Side scene. So there's a big warehouse on Shoals and Waterbury Street in Bushwick that there is a mural there, a beautiful mural of her. That was the first mural that was done. And there's also a mural of Lauren at, at where she was managing a bar she was managing, which was Old Stanley's, which is in Ridgewood.
Hmm.
And that bar is like a shrine to her. They have her bicycle hanging from the ceiling, a picture. There's lights around it, and there's a mural on the outside wall in the courtyard of the place. And her friends go there and they gather there, especially on her birthday, to meet there. And her friends are always going to the murals in Bushwick because when I'll go to visit, I'll see that there's candles or
Hmm.
bottles of liquor, so they go and spend time there. I will say also that I gave Nicole some of Lauren's ashes. So in each one of the murals, Lauren's ashes are in each one of the murals. So her friends going to visit, whether in New York or down in New Orleans, they're visiting. They can spend a little time with her
Yeah.
there, and I wanted that.
What's the New Orleans connection? Because you also there's a song on the album, "My Head's in New Orleans."
That song. Well, I'll say this first: that the song was written about my time down there when
Hmm.
I was in New Orleans, November of 2020, for the dedication of the mural.
Hmm.
So that is the story of me being down there.
Okay.
Um, Her connection was more spiritual. If you've ever been to New Orleans, it's an enchanted city.
Hmm.
The music, the food, the whole place, the food, the whole place is an art piece. The people, and she loved it down there. I believe that at some point she probably would have moved there.
Mm.
She loved it, down there, and that was her connection to it. She had friends down there. She had friends everywhere. She Wherever you could point to, she had friends in that direction.
Yeah. Wow. Just that just that song too is just the "My Head's in New Orleans" is just such a great piece of music too. It's just very it hits me in a certain way. I'm not sure how to describe it. It's kind of melancholy, but not really. And it's just what for me one of the highlights of this album. I mean, everything on here is just really fantastic. But what about the cover?
The
The cover of the
cover,
album is Lauren on a park bench,
right? So
but the bench is out on the
this is the cover of This Girl,
yeah.
and that is Lauren sitting on a bench after one of the big storms at Coney Island. You know, she's sitting.
Uh-huh.
You know, the sea was coming in, and the bench somehow got thrown out to pass the break, and she sat in there. And Arthur took her boyfriend. Arthur took the picture, the photo of that.
Wow.
So it's a
Yeah,
really nice photo.
yeah, it's a great cover. It's just
Thank you.
it's a great cover.
And it spoke to me. You know, we picked this one for the cover because it spoke to me about there's calm, there's something else there too. You know, there's not just one story, just even in the cover. It's peaceful, but yet this was after a storm. You know, that this was the aftermath of a great storm, and she looks peaceful there, and that's after her big storm. I hope that she's found peace. You know.
Yeah. You said that you for 6 months you hadn't done anything
Mm,
after, then all of a sudden when you kind of put the brakes on the things you were doing,
mm.
um did everything just literally almost kind of like vomit itself out? Did this stuff just kind of
Yeah,
come flowing out, or
it
what was it bits and pieces that you had to piece together, or were these coming out as complete thoughts, each one kind of coming out as a story? Because that's really what this album is to me, is very story like.
I believe that from what I remember, because that was a tough time for me, everything
Mm,
just came out. I wrote every song kind of wrote itself
mhm,
as I was as I was. So I picked up my guitar and they just kept coming out. And I will tell you that I don't have the book here, but something that helped me to push me to do this was I was shown it. I was sitting at my desk and I saw a book. Anderson Cooper held up a book, and it was written by his mother, and Anderson Cooper lost his brother. His mother was Gloria Vanderbilt, and
mhm,
they lost his older brother to suicide. So she wrote a book called A Mother's Story. So I'm not an avid reader at all. I'm an observationalist, and I'm just, my mind is a camera, and I'm not much of a reader. But something said to me that this is important for me to read it. So I ordered the book through Amazon, and not to give them any, sorry, but
free plug Amazon.
that's right. So, and after reading the book, it spoke to me because um, a couple of things it showed me. The way she wrote the book, where she was going back in time and forward in time and in the present and trying to figure things out and trying to read and trying to find the answer to the unanswerable question,
Mm,
let me know that I wasn't alone in how I was feeling and what was happening in my process. So it was very, very important to me, that book, but also that she was knew that it was important to put her pain on her sleeve and show the world. And the way that book helped me, I hope that this album, and I may never meet the person, but I hope this album helps someone. I hope that not only helps somebody that either needs to cry or needs help healing or needs to process, to let them know they're not alone,
mhm,
or I hope it creates better empathy and greater conversation about a subject that has been real quiet. And I know this firsthand from when I was 12 and lost my brother.
mm,
And, back then there was we were in a rich family, so there was no child psychologist or therapist or anything. My family was crying around me. Obviously, they were distraught and broken, because of it. But I don't remember. I mean, I remember my mom coming in. My mom was Eastern European, Ukrainian, so she was a tough lady.
Mm.
But she came afterwards and she just hugged me and cried a little bit. She left my room and that was it, but I don't remember anyone checking to see if I was all right.
Yeah.
It just wasn't back then. It
Yeah, it was
wasn't
different time. A
different
totally
time.
different time. You're kind of left to your own wherewithal a lot of times for things like that. Were you worried about, after reading the book? It's one thing to read the book and see someone else put all that out there. Were you worried about you being the one to now decide to put this story out there? Like I said, it's easy to kind of read it and be kind of inspired, but you were going through it, you were living it. What were you worried about? Well, do I want to put this out here, or do I have what it takes to put it out here? How were you feeling about that? Was it just a decision of this is what I need to do?
I think it was more, this is what I need to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
important because if it helps anybody, if someone is helped, um, or if, again, with greater conversation, or I convince someone to make a call and not a mistake, then I won.
Mm-hmm.
Then I won, because I don't want anyone to feel the way I do. I don't want anyone to feel the way Lauren did. I don't want anybody to feel the way my brother did. I don't want, there's another answer, because a phone call could have changed everything. That's all it would have taken,
Yeah.
but there's I think what happens is, and this is, we all get to dark places. We all fall into dark places and we start to dig a hole. But at a certain point, and you have to learn how to fill that hole. You have to say, okay, I don't like where I'm going. I have to pull myself out of this, this hole, and
Mm-hmm.
fill it in, stand on top of it. But what happens, I believe, is when you start to dig too deep, that you don't see light anymore. And that's the great fear. And that it's more open now, the conversation, which I'm very happy about. So the timing for this is very good, because the conversation is more open now than it was at one time. Um, we have to recognize in ourselves there's nothing wrong with realizing that you need help. If you had a stomach ache, you'd go to the doctor. If you had a headache that wasn't going away, you'd go to a doctor. You'd get help. If you had financial trouble, you'd look to find help. Your mental health, and all of our mental health. It's not. We're all we're all in that place. We're
Mm-hmm.
all in a place where we can suffer from it at any time,
Sure.
in small
Absolutely.
degrees and great degrees. And
Yeah.
also there's I think there's some similarities that happen with my brother and with Lauren. And I think what happens sometimes is, I compare it to, someone can live a whole lifetime that has a predisposition for cancer, that they can contract cancer, but a lung cancer. And then if they never smoke their whole life, they'll never know it,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be anything like that.
Yeah.
You don't, if you never touch a drink, you may never find out you're an alcoholic, with some people,
Mm.
we're all just machines, and our, we're wired differently. Each one of us is wired differently. So I think that sometimes when you're in a dark place and then all of a sudden a perfect storm comes in, that's what can take you down. Had it been another day, it wouldn't have happened.
Mm. Yeah, and you were able to realize that within yourself as well going through that 6-month period of that things were not getting better for you, right? And
No.
that you needed to make a change as well. So when you started writing these songs, or when all these songs came out, was it did you just kind of leave them there for a while? Did it and like what did you do with them once they came out? Did it feel like, okay, I've kind of released some of what I was feeling, or kind of walk me through that process of how it went from the page to then deciding to record this stuff and create a full album.
Well, I spoke with Randy Sutter, who is the bass player on the album, and he's my great friend, and
Also known as the Professor.
he is the professor. He professes the bass, and he thankfully, he is a great friend, and the universe puts people with you that you need, and he was someone that I needed. He's been a great friend to me. He if it wasn't for him, I probably would have slipped. But anyway, the so I spoke to him after I wrote some of the songs, and I said, I wrote these songs I have to do with Lauren, and I want to record them. So at first we found a drummer. Uh, this great guy Brian helped us with our demos, and I created demos in my basement for the songs. And it was very hard. And when I listen to the demos now, I can hear the heaviness in my voice and in my spirit, But I worked because, as I said, I'm not an avid reader. Um, and the same way that after my brother had passed, I became very quiet for a couple of years. Part of me was very quiet. And music is the thing that took me out of that place and helped me to find a vehicle for my emotions and things I needed to say. Um, I needed music again to do that for me. And Randy, thankfully, was helpful, as well as our friend Brian, who who played drums on the demos. Um, I let Joe hear the demos, and we used those as a framework to work on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And but I knew that the songs, and I mean this in a confident way. I've been writing songs since I'm 14 years old, so I knew the songs I felt were good and that they were important to create an album, not just to honor Lauren's life and her living spirit, but also for it to be out there in the universe
Mm-hmm.
for her friends, which I call the tribe, um, for them to have something, as well as anyone who needs it. Here's my pain. Take it and do what you need to do to help you feel better.
Yeah. How different was the sound of the demos from what ended up being on the album? Was there a certain musical inspiration that you were looking to? Because it has a very classic feel to it with the organs, the horns. I'm a sucker for arrangements. So,
Mm-hmm.
when something is well arranged and sounds great, like my ears are just they're smiling,
Mm-hmm.
and they are smiling in this album. So, was there something you were pointing towards or using as a guiding star to achieve the sound you were going for?
Well, the cadence of the styles of the songs, and they're varied. There's not one particular style on the album, and I think that each song is a different story of my experience. Wherever my mind was at that moment, and this is how they came out.
Mm.
Because between tears and just asking God why, I remember asking God, listen, you have so many stars in the sky. You can't give one back, you know? And so the style was there, but here I'll bring Joe's name back into it. Joe, thanks to his parents, has been around music since he's a kid. He's been to so many concerts. He his first concert was at 6 years old. He went to see BB King.
Wow.
So yeah, so
That's a start.
yeah, so in a way, even though Joe is in his mid to late 20s, and me being the age I'm at, 175, we grew musically. We had the same frame of reference because his dad and I have the same frame of reference. So when it came time to create the arrangements, Joe could facilitate what we were hearing, what we heard the songs needed. He was able to facilitate it because he had the talent. He plays horns, he plays keyboards, he plays guitar, he sings, he plays drums, he does all these things. He's just that guy. Yeah, and he's an architect. So how he found time, he probably had a half hour to kill, so he became an architect.
Well, it sounds like he's a musical architect as well. I mean,
He is, absolutely.
So,
he's a very smart young man and very tenacious when he
yeah.
wants to do something.
And I had the privilege, August 19th, 2023. There was an Act Through Music benefit.
Yes.
For suicide awareness and prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful day. The sun was out. And you decided you were going to play the whole album, perform the whole album, which had never been done, right? When you recorded this, you recorded it in layers, right? You kind of laid down the bass, right? It wasn't recorded live with everybody at once, right?
We had all the recording done. We were in the middle of. We had all the pieces.
Yeah.
We were doing the mixing and getting it ready to go to mastering. To Nick, we decided to use, thankfully, because he did a great job. Nick Masite of Old Quarry did a fantastic job mastering it. But at that time, we really had would say they were a little more than a rough mix, but they weren't complete mixes yet. And so all that was just what we did in the studio, but we had not heard it in a live setting.
Yeah.
So
all at once, not meaning like when you recorded it a track at a time, right? You would do
that's correct.
The horns would be separate,
Right.
So you
Joe's
were
not that good.
Yeah. So at the Act Music benefit, you were literally launching the whole thing as it's never been performed before, right? Because it was done track by track for the most part, right?
Correct.
You had, if I recall, 3 or 4 horn players.
Yes.
Joe was there on the keyboards. Randy was on the bass. You had a drummer. Did you have a violin?
Yes, Nicole Deloy.
Yeah.
Nicole Deloy was
you
on
had, I
violin and
think,
mandolin.
Yeah, maybe 8 or 9 people.
Yeah,
I think on stage with
on
you.
Guitar as well. Yeah.
What was that like? Because that is, first of all, very ambitious to do, especially with that amount of people. To get all that, to get those people to learn those parts and to perform that whole thing at once. I was there, and I do remember when it started, you kind of got a little emotional because when you talk about that, it was kind of like, it was happening.
I realized, I think it just all hit me. There was a lot of anxiousness on my part leading up to that day because I had to call in favors. It was a benefit, so I had to call in favors. The horn section was from this great funk band called the Funk Junkies, who were really just a great band, but those guys jumped right in and they were happy to help. Jeremy Langdale helped as a second guitar. Nicole Deloy helped on violin and mandolin. Larry Lepkirk from the Funk Junkies as well was playing drums, and he's pro drummer, excellent drummer. Randy was there on bass, and Joe Leone was on keyboards. And what happened is that when we did, there was a song we did, and when the horns came in and the full sound of the full band hit me, it just it broke me, like, because it was so beautiful.
Hmm.
It was very powerful for me to hear this go out into the universe. That this sound, these songs for Lauren were in this intensity going out into the universe, and it just did. I collapsed for a minute. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
collapsed worse later, but again,
I think everybody that was there felt it because it was a visible thing, and it was also an auditory
mhm,
feeling as well when the horns just kind of kicked in. And
mhm,
from being on the other side of the stage opposite you, I felt that as well. You just felt the impact of this music kind of coming through, and why everybody was there. And that made it an even more special event to kind of go there. It's rare, even artists today that kind of don't do a full album in
mhm.
once. It's a massive undertaking, especially if you've got special guests that you're calling in favors for. You've got to get them, up ramped up and up and running on it. And
And we never rehearsed.
really,
We
so
never, we didn't,
wow,
we were never in the same room. I had someone made up, someone from the Funk Junkies who couldn't be there, made up horn charts for me, which was wonderful of him. And I sent out horn charts, and Larry Lubkirk, the drummer, he learned his parts, from the rough recordings, and everybody did their homework, and we
hmm,
all showed up on that
wow,
day. So that's what made it more overwhelming, was that just everybody were there for this piece of music for my daughter, you
yeah,
know, and it was beautiful. It was just such a beautiful moment when that everything kicked in, and to hear this music. And I knew Joe and I had something, that we
yeah,
were on the right track, of what we were doing.
absolutely, absolutely. And you had a guest vocalist on Greenleaf, I believe.
Yes, that was
Uh,
Michael, Guiley. Michael
yeah,
Guiley. Yes, he was. I love Michael. He's got more. He's the energy bunny,
yeah. He jumped in
energizer
and tore
bunny.
it up.
Yeah, yeah. He's great. Now, Randy, that song was when we were working on the demos. Randy is a published poet. He's really a proficient, talented poet, and he had sent me. And it's funny. This is the universe involvement again. Where he would send me often. He would send me poems. Hey, this was this morning's offering. This was this morning's offering. And he sent me while we were working on the demos. One morning I got up, and he had sent me this poem called Greenleaf. Yeah, I don't think he had a title for it.
Hmm.
I wound up titling it. He probably would have called it Greenleaf anyway. And just the imagery of of leaves being on the tree, having beauty after they've fallen, their beauty is there, remains, and is just as intense and beautiful. And recently, because I get to listen to my record as well, and I realize that the tree, in a way, is the father of these leaves. So they're they're talking. He's talking in the well, now it's a song, but in the poem, about the tree, and being able to see this going on with the leaves, being the witness to this, and the reverence is not lost on me, that is the father of these leaves.
Hmm.
And it just is beautiful, and it was beautiful. And that came together. I asked Randy, I said, listen, I said, can I make this a song out of this? And we were working on other demos, and he said, oh, absolutely. do it. And
Yeah.
I had it written like within 10 minutes, it was written.
Wow. So, what was your approach to songwriting for this? Was there anything different about it, or was that a comfort zone for you to fall into the way you would write songs as a way to kind of maybe a little catharsis to be able to work through it, or were you doing something totally different on this?
Well, I will tell you that that's, and I'm, uh, people wouldn't know it because I seem to talk a lot, but I am an introvert, believe it or not. Um, and when things are hurting me or things are bothering me, I get really quiet.
Hmm.
And what, and that's usually I know at some point I'm going to write a song about how I'm feeling right now, and that's how I express myself. It's been my whole life that way, you know, and it's been great therapy. You know, this album is not only for someone else, but it's also for me. These songs were therapy for me to create. But usually, songs will happen if something is in my head that is going on. As I said, I'm not an avid reader, but I'm an observationalist. So if I'm seeing something either wrong with the world or just something wrong with someone who says they're a friend or someone, even family, it could be family, that something will come out, even if it's tongue in cheek, it'll come out.
Mm. City Morning seems like that. Very observational, almost a slice of life type
Yes.
type of song. That's the opening track,
Yeah.
and I kind of got that feeling. It's kind of it would literally was. It sounds like you were transposing the thoughts that were going on. You've got your headphones on. You like the music that's going on, and just kind of you know uh, a very delicate way to open the album as well.
Well, I think it was important to start it that way because I wanted the introduction to what was to come, for people to know that this is not a depressing record. This
Hmm.
is not meant to be depressing. This is meant to be a conversation, a reflection of love, and a conversation with someone, a love letter to someone who we lost, who I lost, who I've lost. And the point of City Morning is really the point that it's never going to go away. That you can be living your day, you can be listening to music, you can be thinking about other things, but this that you have this hurt, this broken heart, is not going to go away. And how you it's going to pop into your day. I mean, I don't want to give away the words in case anybody listens to it, but I'm talking about,
Well, a little sample won't hurt. That'll be a
right.
tease.
Well, it talks about, the weather. It talks about the weather. It talks about the music in headphones. It talks about stopping, like anybody else, stopping for a cup of coffee, uh, not wanting to look at the papers because you're frustrated with the news, and all things that go on in a regular day. And then um, you that that thing that's always there pops back in your head. I'm looking in my head, remembering what you said. My heart holds on to thee. To look back, there is no purpose because your picture stays with me.
Mm.
She's always with me. You know, she's always with me.
Yeah, man, and I think it's bookended by the last song. How do we say goodbye? Very similar tempo and feeling. When I was listening to it, like I said, the more I listen, the more I pick up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, the opening and the closing song almost are kind of bookend the story, bookend this experience that you take us on. Was that was the track ordering? Was that something that was really important to you? Of
Yes.
kind of you were trying to create a certain flow or create a certain emotional kind of lift on the
Yes.
album.
Well, we wanted the story to go a certain. We wanted it to go a certain way. Joe and I worked really hard on that. We went back and forth on a few decisions, and I think we made the right ones in the end. I think the flow of the album goes well. I think that the way that the that start and that end, yeah, that was actually, I knew that we needed something to close out this story, this story, you know, and it had not. We had everything else recorded, and I said, Joe, I said, I have this song um, that I had written. I actually wrote it after my dad and my sister Jeanette had passed away, very close to each other, and I wrote that after they passed away. So what I did was there was one verse. I said, but I'm going to change something in it. I let him hear it. I said, but there's something I'm going to change. I'm going to change a verse because there's something I need to say, a question I need to ask. And that is where I say in the song, I say, was there peace of mind when it ended? Which I think it really closes the album out with that question. There's a lot of open-ended questions at, uh, with there's someone else's music in my head. Um, you know, I don't close it. I don't finish the song for a reason. I want the question to ring in people's heads, and the question is, when the light breaks through the shade, we think we've got it made, but we wake up to the day. Whatever I said, I don't even remember my own words. But we go into the day thinking that we're saved, but are we saved? Like you don't know what the day is going to bring. You don't know. What you don't know. You think it's a beautiful day, the sun is out, and you don't know what the day is going to bring.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, John, I have to say it's a powerful piece of work, but infinitely listenable. Also, like you said, um, it's dealing with some heavy subjects and some things that you need to say, but it's so well done, and I think that's what makes it enjoyable. And it's a broad statement, but I don't know anybody that maybe hasn't been touched by suicide. I'm sure we all either have a direct relation or know somebody. So it's something that is not too foreign to everybody, unfortunately. Um, but I have to say on this album, um, I'm glad that you're like you had said, the mission statement was not to make this doom and gloom, but to there's also celebratory. There's some like shuffle in it. Is it bossa nova shuffle that I'm hearing on? Um,
New Orleans,
yeah,
New Orleans.
is that
Oh
what it
well, you
is,
got
or is
that.
it
No, you're
that?
talking about the way you feel about her.
Yeah,
So yeah, I guess it would be.
like a little.
You
It's
know,
like it's like
yeah,
a little shuffly. So there's a lot of different textures on the album,
yes.
um, which I really dig. And highly recommend. Like I said earlier, everybody just check this album out. The link will be in the show notes. Um, do yourself a favor and pick it up and purchase it, and your purchase will go towards helping this cause. I've been privileged to have been able to see John many times, to see him perform this live. What made me a John fan, I think I told him this story. I think I told you when I first met you, is I went to go see John. John was performing, and he's running through some songs, and he starts playing a song, and I'm like, is that Slow Turning by John Hyatt? I'm like, I thought I was the only guy on earth that knew that song. Obviously, I'm not the only guy on earth that knew that song, but to me, I really liked that song. It was I thought it was a very obscure thing for someone to be performing, and John did a fantastic. I'm like, I love this guy.
Well,
Like
thank you.
that was, and that was a few years ago when I first saw him, and he's doing. I'm like, Slow Turning. I'm like, I love that song, but nobody knows it. And here's this guy that's performing it, and he's playing the hell out of it as well. So he's no slouch when it comes to the music.
Thank you.
Yeah. What are there some more plans? I know there's a release party coming up.
There's one on Sunday, June 2nd,
Uh-huh.
at Arlene's Grocery on the Lower East Side. It's an afternoon show. It's a Sunday afternoon, starting at 1, probably go to around 5.
Okay. Open to the
We
public?
open to the public. You can come. We're going to make a donation to a suicide prevention cause, maybe a couple, depending on how much over cost. We
Mm-hmm.
have to cover some costs there, but we are going to write a check uh, to suicide prevention, mental health
Great.
causes.
That's fantastic.
And the Arlene's Grocery, for those of you that may or may not know, uh, is an iconic rock and roll bar in the Lower East Side, on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And it's going to be a great show. We have more people on the bill, and Lauren used to work there on
Mm-hmm.
at one time too, so they were all about doing it there.
That's
That we
great.
do this release show there. We have a wonderful artist that's opening up for us named Roni. She is huge on the New York scene, and she is really an outstanding performer. So when I talked to her, I met her years ago at a little bar in Alphabet City I was playing at, and she was playing, and she was young then. And we became friends, and we stayed in touch through Instagram, and I've watched her career grow. She's a monster player. She's a monster writer. She's a monster performer.
Wow.
And I'm honored that I asked, and she's like, "Yep, I'll be there."
That's fantastic.
So she's going to be there, and probably we'll have another act on too. So it's not just us. We're hoping to have 3 acts, including my band. It'll be a
Mm.
full band again, and I won't break down this time because
We'll see.
yeah, that's right. I'll
We'll
do my
see. We'll see.
best. We'll have albums there too. There'll be albums and CDs and T-shirts and stickers, and we'll have all kinds of stuff there.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes to that as well. So this way, if anybody's in the New York area at the beginning of June, come on down. I'm going to try my level best to be down there as well, so we can kind of hook up. It can be an informal meetup, but come on down and support John and the great work and the great piece of music that
Thank
he's
you.
done. I've got 2 questions for you as we wind down, John.
Okay.
What's the most fun about performing live, and what's the most challenging part about performing live? What do you
Well,
find? What do you find most fun?
the most fun is when I'm able to, because I never use a set list. I'll never use a set list. I use a menu, and we joke about it. The bands that I'll play with, they'll laugh because I never use a set list. Like, we never go in any order of doing anything,
Mm,
because I've been doing this so long that I prefer to read the crowd, and I know hundreds and hundreds of songs I can play, and another probably 100 of my own songs. So I read the crowd, and see what they like, and
mm,
that is a great joy when I hit on that, and then there's that reciprocal energy flow, where I'm making people happy, and they're moved by what I'm doing, and they're feeling something, and it returns to me, and I play better. There's no doubt about it. I play better because the energy is coming back to me. The hardest thing is the same thing, because sometimes I'm hard. I'm trying. Well, maybe we'll lean a little country. We'll lean a little southern rock. We'll go a little this way, that way, more rock and roll, a little heavier, a little lighter. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Thankfully, they are very few and far between. But when that happens, man, that's a long 3 hours.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have almost a pretty good musical intuition then, right? Of let's do our first song and kind of get a feel as opposed to trying to rigidly force, here's my set list, here's what you're getting, take it or leave it, and
Yeah,
you
I
seem
won't
to be
do
a little
that.
bit more fluid with that and say, well, let's kind of go with the flow. And if they're rocking, let's not put a ballad in there. Let's keep it going then, just because we have a ballad next or a slow song next, let's kind of keep it going. Is that fair to kind of say how you kind of work it?
Yes, yes, and I'll do that. I'll pace the sets. You know, if I've done a couple of quick songs, you know, I'll put a slower ballady song afterwards to bring it back down again, and you know, try and keep a mix. Try and not even chords. I'll try not to, like if we did the last song in G, I'll say, okay, let me find something in another chord.
Mm-hmm.
You know, throw a song that has a minor, you know, is in a minor key. You know, just to change it up because, uh, you know, mentally people, whether they know it or not, their brain tells them, and they get bored if you're doing the same thing.
Mm.
So you have to mix it up because so their brain goes, there's something new happening. You know, it's I call it the tambourine theory. If you hear like, especially you were talking about a lot of classic songs from like the '60s or '70s, or you know, and you'll notice that even if the song is repetitious, at a certain point in the recording, a lot of times they'll put in a tambourine, and that's so the listener's brain. That's a trick. It's a studio trick, a recording trick,
Mm.
because it makes the person's brain go, "Oh, there's something new happening." You know, we're not hearing the same thing
Yeah.
now, even though everything else is the same. Yeah.
I think I
So
missed my calling. I could have been a good tambourine player, I think.
I think you could have. I
John,
think
if
you
you
could.
ever need a tambourine player,
I think you're
I'll
a
even buy
great.
my own. You don't even have to provide it. I'll buy one if
I
that's what it
think you're.
takes. If that's what
Yeah.
it takes,
Well,
John.
I'll buy you your first tambourine.
They have a starter tambourine.
Yeah. Yeah.
One more
Yeah.
question, and then I'll let you go. Um, let's pretend that cell phones and internet technology doesn't exist, and you're going on a trip. What three albums are you taking with you?
Oh, that's interesting. Well,
Yeah, because I don't
I'm
want to make it so easy with Spotify. Oh, I could just listen. It's like,
no.
no, you don't have that. I want to make it a little bit more difficult for the throwback people that like to listen to albums. What
Okay.
three are you taking on a trip with you to pass the time?
Three. Okay. Well,
Any genre.
one would be the Layla album, Eric Clapton,
We just
Dirk and the
recorded an
Diamonds.
episode about that yesterday.
Oh, that's great. I look forward to
that
yeah,
is that's kismet. We just
yeah.
literally did it yesterday.
I would take Jazz Samba by Stan Getz.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I, I I love that album. I think I would take Frank Sinatra Live at the Sands,
Wow.
and if I have room
Yeah, take
in
one
my
more.
case, I would take the Graham Parker Heat Treatment album.
Wow. That's an eclectic bunch. But you've got you got Sinatra, you got classics all around. Stan Getz, and then Graham Parker is kind of the indie. He kind of represents the indie of that group of records
Right.
that you're taking with you.
And if I couldn't find that, I'd take Garland Jeffries' Ghost Rider.
Oh, I like Garland Jeffries.
Oh, I love
I
him.
saw him in 2015 at the they don't do it anymore. The Clearwater Festival.
Mhm.
I went to, there's all these different stages, and it was like, oh, person I was with is, oh, Garland Jeffries, and I had heard the name, but I didn't know the person. But I'd heard I knew of that name as an artist of somebody. So we
You
go
have
to
to.
see Garland Jeffries, and this was, he just retired recently. Um, and he put on he was supposed to play for an hour, and he did like 45 minutes. I think he thought he was only supposed to do 45 minutes because he kept on winding the set down, and I think the people on the side was like, no, you got to keep going. But the energy that he had made me a fan. I went out like the week later. I bought The King of In Between,
Oh yeah.
Truth Serum, 12 Steps to Harlem, which is a lot of his later releases. I was like, where has this guy been?
Oh
all
yeah.
my life. You know, I'm
Well,
like,
he's the king of in between.
yeah,
You have to see the movie. The
yeah. The
movie,
documentary is
it's great. And
yeah,
I'll tell you this. Here goes another thing. Joe Leone and his parents are great friends with Garland and his
really,
wife. Oh yeah, very very close. In fact, Joe did a performance where he played drums for Garland Jeffries, and they did "Waiting for My Man" by Lou Reed.
yeah. That's what reminded me. He opened with a song called Coney Island Winter,
Yes,
which is and I that's what the vibe I got. I'm like, this guy kind of sounds like Lou Reed, and then I come
Frank
to
the
find
Bum
out
Man.
later he was good friends with Lou Reed, and he was
Oh
really good
sure.
friend. Yeah, and that song like he opened with, I'm like, wow, it kind of like kind of perked my ears up. I'm like, this is something different.
Mhm.
Um, and he just gave it. The guy was jumping on the speaker. I'm like, what is going on here? Like this
Yeah,
was like a guy like I'd never seen it, and I walked away a fan. And that's some of the great things about music too. Is you know, um, you 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 get exposed to things, and even if and I always say this, even if it's old music, it's new to you if you've never heard it before.
that's
You know,
right. Well,
so
music
I don't think
is
of old like, oh, it's old. Well, if I've never heard it, it's new to me.
that's right.
So
Yes.
I'm always on the lookout for things I haven't been exposed to,
Mm.
which is the beauty of it. um and that's the beauty of this album, John, too, is I think I want to get as many people exposed to this too, to really take the journey, listen to the story, honor Lauren's memory as well, um and all pitch in to help do what we can, to help prevent any type of suicides going
Thank you.
forward. It's a steep climb, but like I said, one step at a time, the journey begins with.
I'm
Um,
grateful for the platform, Dean. And
yeah,
I'll tell you, someone sent me a private message regarding the album. I don't know the person. They sent me a message saying, "I feel I know your daughter now." So my daughter is
was it?
still affecting people.
Yeah,
She's still making friends, and people are thinking about her. How beautiful is that?
it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. It's
And
that's the power, um, of music. It really is. It's a formidable tool when wielded, the right way. And yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud to know you. I'm proud that you let me listen to this a year in advance. You had sent me the pre-mastered stuff too to give me a preview. So I personally feel honored and blessed to know you, to call you friend,
it,
to see you perform, and to see
well,
this come to light. Um, we've been talking about it for a while. I said, as soon as it's ready, let me know. Want to get you on the show and get it exposed. So John Irizarry, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for the music.
it's been my honor to be here. I thank you, Dean. I feel the same about you. When we were finished, when we had the rough mixes together, you popped into my head that I wanted you to hear it.
Oh,
It was
thank you.
important that you heard it because I know you know the difference.
It means a lot. It really does. Uh, yeah, we want everybody to check this out. So, like I said in the beginning, we're going to drop a whole bunch of links into the show notes. So go check it out. It's going to be a click away if you're listening on your phone. Just go to the notes. We'll have the link to John's Bandcamp site, and you can just go purchase hashtag Izzy Forever bumper stickers. You've got there as well, right, on the Bandcamp?
Yeah, there's stickers. They're not. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was
if
like,
you have like a small car, you can put it on.
okay,
They're about. Yeah,
or a big car, but you have to get really close to it.
that's right. I get a
But
bunch.
if if you could read this, you're too close.
That's right.
But absolutely go check it out. There's going to be a lot there, and like I said, June 2nd, he's got the release party as well. So there's an opportunity to go see John. I'll put a link to his Facebook too, because he plays a lot of shows. He's a very busy man. Him and Randy and his band Rev Dogs are always doing something. These guys are busier than I don't know what. So we'll drop a
Yeah.
bunch of links in there, one way or the other. Go see John play.
Thank you.
Purchase the album. Do anything you can to be in the audience when John is there, because he's a great guy. He's a fantastic musician, and he puts on a great show. And this album complements all of that. It kind of encapsulates everything I think that John has to offer us. And like I said, I'm so proud of you and proud to just to know you, honestly.
Thank you, Dean.
So
I feel the same about you. I have also a website, johnirizarrymusic.com.
We'll put that in there too. This might be the fullest amount of show notes we've ever done, but it's worthwhile. Click on all of it, and all of it's going to be definitely worth your time. So that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us on this very special episode. Not always an easy thing to talk about, but like John said, that it hopefully gets easier and not so taboo when it is brought out, and it is painful. And John went through a lot, but to bring this to us. So I don't want that to be lost on everybody as well, that a lot of people go through this, and John is brave enough to literally wear his heart on his sleeve, and to give us this beautiful statement and this beautiful piece of music. So thanks again, John.
Thank you to your audience for listening.
Absolutely. And for John, this has been Dean, and we will absolutely catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, brother.